Hey everyone. A lot of people ask me what I actually do and why I do it and how I got to be where I am today from where I was a few years ago, which was in a very different space in my life. Several years ago, actually, it's probably been about 10 years now, I was in a really successful career. I worked really hard to get to where I was at. And I had checked all the boxes off the list, all the boxes that society teaches us that we need to achieve success, right? I had the big high level job in corporate, the house, the car, and all of the things. And I even was blessed to have a bunch of friends and then my family as well. But what happened? Well, let me say first that I really loved my job for a long time. But what happened after a while, being an overachiever, I was always that person that had to believe in everything that I did. And over a period of time, I got to a place in my career where there were no more promotions available. I had checked all of those boxes off the list in my work and seemingly in my life. So I began to feel unfulfilled in the job that I was doing. I began to feel unchallenged and like I was on this endless hamster wheel, just kind of going through the motions in my life. And in addition to that, being in what could at times be a toxic work environment, right? It felt harder and harder for me to make a difference, to feel like I was making a difference in the work that I was doing. At the time, I was a director of store operations, so I was a huge advocate for the stores. I started my retail career at 19, and I had such a passion for enhancing the experience, not only for the consumer, but for the employees as well. And it just got to the point where every day it felt like an uphill battle to slash my way through the bureaucracy and the politics and just the whole process that was involved in getting something done for the stores. And so I was just feeling like I wasn't a fit for that job and that career anymore. And what happened is that it's like this brain fog I didn't know I had for so many years. It's like this fog in my mind, and my heart started to lift. I started to wake up. It was like I started to see the world in a new way, in a really cool 3D kind of way. It was like I had been living with my eyes closed for so long. And all of a sudden, I just felt this call to do more. I knew that there was more beyond the life I had experienced, that there was more that I couldn't see. And so I started studying anything I could get my hands on from a personal development standpoint. I started making wellness a top priority in my life. I implemented meditation as a daily practice. And what happened was amazing. I discovered these gifts that I had, and I had these experiences, things that I was feeling, seeing, and knowing that the logical mind could not explain. I was having an awakening. I was experiencing this huge shift in consciousness. And along with that, my soul's whisper to align with a greater path and to pursue a greater work in my life, those feelings kept growing stronger and stronger inside me every day. But despite all of this, I continued to stay in the same career that I knew I no longer belonged in. I was essentially starting to lead this double life. I was one person at work, during the day, and then outside of work, I was spending my time and I was this completely other person. So, despite all of that, I ignored my soul's whisper to align with a higher path in my life, and that went on for about 2 years. And then what really cracked me open, what was really the catalyst for changing my life, was my mother's diagnosis with stage 4 lung cancer. And I still feel emotional about it to this day, because that was just really, aside from her being my mom and being sick, it was just really the defining moment in my life. It was the beginning of the end of that chapter of my life. And what happened was I was living back east at the time. I found myself flying back and forth to be with her, with my family, to try to help out as much as I could in between, my career, which I was pretty much on 24/7 there. And there was one day that I was sitting by my mother's bedside, thinking about, what little time I had with her left. But then at the same time, I found myself worrying about conference calls and projects and other things that were going on at my work that I didn't feel like I belonged in anymore, and I knew that. And at that moment, I felt like I had to make a decision between staying on top of my work in that moment and spending what little time I had left with my mom. And I made a vow to myself right in that moment that I was no longer going to allow myself to stay stuck in a life I knew I didn't belong in anymore. Experiencing an illness or experiencing, having a loved one that's close to us with an illness, it really helps us to see through a different lens. It really helps us to understand more the essence of morality, okay, and what a tremendous gift being alive and being on this planet is. So shortly after that time, my mother did pass away, and I voluntarily stepped down from my position in my workhouse in New Jersey, packed my car, and headed out west in Idaho to where I had actually grown up. And that sounds like a song, right? Packed my bags, heading out west, but I did it. And it was one of the most liberating, freeing things to date that I've ever done in my life. I spent some time consulting, with the company I was working for at that time for a little while, but I knew that being an entrepreneur was on my heart. I knew that I wanted to start my own business. Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to be a teacher. And then life happened. I was on my own at an early age, and I ended up starting in a career in retail when I was 19. And that is what kept me in the retail industry for over 23 years. It was my love of helping other people, of supporting others, mentoring them, coaching them, training them to lift them up to success in terms of what that meant for them. What I realized is that what kept me in that place, in that industry for so long, is that I was dating my purpose. There was an element of work in that career that I was meant to do, and that's what kept me there. But there was this whole other realm of work that I was responsible for that I wasn't in integrity with, that it was not in alignment with my values. What I realized after I stepped away from that life, stepping away from that life gave me the space that I needed to be open to receive clarity on the greater work I was meant to do. I made the decision that I was going to start coaching others, but not just coaching others. I felt so passionate and I learned so much from the journey that I had been on, moving from corporate, waking up, discovering my higher path. And I knew that there were so many others out there in a similar place that I was, at a similar crossroads in their life. I knew that I needed to dedicate my life to helping others through that journey, to helping others reconnect with that higher power, with God, helping others peel back the layers of fear and doubt that have held them back from being who they're really meant to be, from pursuing the dreams that are already on their heart. I'm here to tell you that if you are thinking about taking a leap to make a big change in your life, or you have taken that leap, but you're still feeling stuck and you're not sure how to move forward, reach out for support. I've had the support of so many amazing spiritual teachers and coaches along the way. I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without the support of those people. Reaching out to work with a teacher or a coach can help us see those blind spots, to help us, because sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. And working with, a coach or a mentor or reaching out to support for somebody can help us also achieve results a lot faster that we wouldn't normally be able to do on our own. So I just want you to know that you're not alone and that there are a lot more people out there than you may realize that are in this place. I would love to hear your story. Please share your story in the comments or send me a direct message. I would love to hear more about your journey.